The silence that watched back, opening, soft ambient music, slow voiceover pacing. There are moments in the history of science when silence is deafening. Moments so strange, so out of place, they defy classification. Moments that don't just shift our understanding of the universe, they fracture it. This is one of those moments. It wasn't a comet. It wasn't a collapsing star. It wasn't even a strange new planet. No. What set off the alarm wasn't something. It was the absence of something. Silence itself. A silence so vast, so precise, so absolutely perfect that it disrupted our understanding of what emptiness even means. And the discovery came from none other than the James Webb Space Telescope, humanity's most powerful eye in the sky, orbiting over 1 million miles from Earth, gazing into the deepest corners of the cosmos. It was observing a sector of space we'd long believed to be lifeless. A void between galaxies. Just a blind spot in the cosmic map. But what it found there was not empty. It was watching. Section 1. The shape of nothing. The James Webb team had been scanning deep into the Eridanus Supervoid, a region notorious for its mysterious cold patches and low galaxy density. Astronomers called it a dead zone, a place where stars feared to form. Just darkness, just absence. But the telescope's instruments didn't return darkness. They returned nothing. A perfect circle in the data. A spot where no light passed through, no light bent around, no gravitational lensing occurred. This wasn't just empty space. This was an interruption, a kind of cosmic blackout. An ink drop in the middle of a perfect still glass, but instead of spreading, the water itself vanishes. Scientists had no term for it. It didn't act like a black hole. There was no X-ray emission. No Hawking radiation. No gravitational ripple that would signal mass. It was as if the laws of physics themselves were simply absent. Section 2. The void begins to breathe, and then, it moved. Not in a way that any natural object drifts or spins. Not like an asteroid tumbling, not like a planet orbiting a star. It moved as if it were breathing. The perimeter expanded and contracted, not at random, but rhythmically. Like a living organism. Like lungs filling and deflating. It was pulsing in silence. And whatever it wasn't asleep. Section 3. The signal emerges, next came the light echoes. Distortions in the surrounding starlight that rippled outward. At first, they were dismissed as noise. But soon a pattern emerged, not just any pattern, but prime numbers. The sequence repeated in intervals, each pulse echoing the next in perfect mathematical order. As if someone, or something, was broadcasting a message. But it wasn't a radio signal. It wasn't electromagnetic. It was more primal. A disruption in spacetime itself. James Webb's ultra-sensitive gyroscopes picked up microscopic shifts in the local quantum field, coinciding precisely with the pulse rhythm. Reality was being nudged. Section 4. Intention in the void. Astrophysicists called in quantum theorists. Quantum theorists looped in computational mathematicians. And soon, even AI specialists were running simulations on the timing, the rhythm, the pattern. What they found was terrifying. These pulses weren't random. They weren't natural. They were the fingerprints of intention. No known celestial phenomenon behaves like this. Not supernova remnants. Not quasars. Not even hypothetical dark matter interactions. This wasn't the noise of the universe. It was a signal. Precise. Repeating, purposeful. And more disturbingly, it seemed to be responding to us. Section 5. Dimensional movement. On the 27th day of focused observation, Webb recorded something previously thought to be impossible. The object shifted. Not drifted. Not moved in an orbital path. It blinked. It reappeared a fraction of a degree away, 0.004 degrees to be exact. An imperceptible shift to the human eye, but one that defied every known law of physics. Because to move without leaving a trail means you are not bound by momentum, by inertia, by time. The object had skipped across dimensions like a stone skipping across a pond, but in space. And the most disturbing part? The trajectory of its reappearances, when plotted over time, formed a spiral. The pattern that knew us, opening, sound deepens, tempo slows. By the fourth month of analysis, the scientific community was no longer asking, "What is it?" They were asking, "What does it want?" Because the behavior wasn't just reactive. It was adaptive. The longer Webb observed, the more the patterns around the object began to change. They evolved, adapting to Webb's orientation, realigning themselves with camera angles, correcting shape and trajectory in real time. Like something was watching the telescope, watching us. Section 6. Responsive geometry. Scientists coined a term for it, responsive geometry. Fractals, complex self-replicating patterns, began forming around the anomaly. At first, it resembled turbulence. Then, something more organized. Not random like gas clouds. Not mechanical like satellites. It looked biological. Not like organs or bones, but like neurons. Like pathways in a brain. A living architecture coded in space itself. And it wasn't passively responding. It was actively calculating, adjusting. Correcting itself when our instruments change. It wasn't just watching. It was learning. Section 7. The echo that sang. Then came the most unexpected discovery of all. A background radiation shift, so faint, it took weeks to isolate from cosmic noise. But it matched the anomaly's pulse sequence. Only delayed. Like a distant echo. The frequency wasn't like anything we'd seen from stars or quasars. It had structure. Not just harmonics, musical harmonics. Frequencies layered in nested chords. Like a song. Some began calling it the song of the void. Others simply called it a response. Because the more we focused our instruments, the more the harmonics shifted, as if it was fine-tuning itself. To us. Section 8. A signature in the numbers. A group of theoretical mathematicians was brought in to decode the underlying structure of the signal. What they found shocked even the most skeptical observers. Hidden in the signal's intervals was a mathematical constant known as the lemur prime spiral. A number pattern so rare and so complex that it's never been observed naturally in any known cosmic event. It was long believed to represent some deeper, hidden symmetry in nature. But now, it was showing up here. In spacetime pulses. And when the spiral was plotted in 3D, it formed a shape we recognized instantly. A helix. Nearly identical to the double helix of human DNA. Section 9. It knew us first. Coincidence? Maybe. Until the pulse intervals were cross-referenced with biological codons, the genetic triplets in our own DNA. They matched. Whoever or whatever created this pattern didn't just understand physics. They understood life. Our life. The object wasn't just observing us. It knew what it was observing. And maybe, it had known us before we saw it. Section 10. Disappearance and silence, and then, everything stopped. The pulses ceased. The harmonics went flat. The breathing perimeter, silent. On day 48 of observation, just before the telescope shifted to a new target, the object vanished. No trail. No afterglow. No evidence it had ever been there. Except for one final image. A geometric sigil. 3 frames long. Perfectly angular. Circles, triangles, lines, nested in recursive layers. A symbol that screamed intelligence. And then, it was gone. Final section. The door that opened. Since that moment, public data streams from Webb have been delayed. Access logs to key observatories have disappeared. And several scientists have quietly stepped away from their institutions without explanation. Emergency meetings were confirmed. NASA, ESA, Blue Origin, SpaceX. Not to handle a threat. but because no one could prove this wasn't already on Earth. The worst part? Space probes like Voyager and New Horizons had flown right past this region, and saw nothing. Which means either it was cloaked all this time, or it only appeared when we were finally ready to see it. Or worse, when it was ready to be seen. Closing, music builds, then fades to eerie quiet. This wasn't just a discovery. It was a reply. A mirror in the dark. A response to our staring. And now we're left with only silence. A silence that feels intentional. The James Webb Telescope didn't just show us more of the universe. It may have opened a door. And what's waiting behind it might not be from this universe at all.